All right, good morning, everyone. This is 10:30 Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Sunday, or 10:30 a.m. Sunday briefing. We got a lot today, so bear with me, and we've got some very good news, but a lot of important information for citizens to hear. I'm joined today by Alderman Diane Colley-Urquhart. Diane has been at the reception centers solid for the last 48 hours. We're using your old nursing skills too, haven't you? But is also, of course, the chair of our Transportation and Transit Committee and has been intimately involved with our Director of Roads, Ryan Justin, and our General Manager of Transportation, Matt Logan, and their teams in figuring out what is going on there. All right, let's start with the headlines. Situation in the river has improved from last night, but probably not quite as rapidly as we had expected. So my headline numbers for you this morning are, on the Elbow River, downstream from the Glenmore Dam, we're down to 224 cubic meters per second. A significant improvement from the 680 cubic meters per second we were seeing before, but remember, still a giant number. Still incredibly high flows. Down from 255 at 2 a.m. However, I had reported earlier that we would hope we would get to the magic number of 170 cubic meters per second today, which would essentially mean that the water is no longer overtapping the Glenmore Dam and the flows are under our control. Recent reports from Bragg Creek tell us that there's a flow there of 220 cubic meters per second, which is a little bit higher than we were anticipating. That means that the dam may not, in fact, stop overtopping today. We may not get to the magic 170 number, but again, those numbers are all moving in the right direction. Similarly, in the Bow, flows are down from yesterday and stable. Flows at the Bearspaw Dam are now 1,220 cubic meters per second. Due to weather conditions upstream and a little bit of increased spillage from the upstream dams. Below the confluence, or what I call the Alderman Carraw House measure, in Inglewood, flows are significantly down. We were looking at in the 2000s yesterday. We're now down to 1,366. So that is very, very encouraging news. Everything is moving in the right direction. But remember, those numbers are extraordinarily high. We're still looking at numbers many times what we saw during the floods of 2005. So what that means is we are certainly still in a state of emergency. And as always, our number one priority is people's safety. So my message to people, which I will repeat from last night, is I'm still trying to find nouns that they're allowing me to use. I haven't found any yet. So don't be one of those nouns that I'm not allowed to use. Stay away from the rivers, stay away from the rivers, stay away from the rivers. In particular, you must stay away from the riverbanks. We are flowing so fast, we have no idea what the level of erosion below the river pathways and below the riverbanks are. The riverbank could wash out from under you in an instant. The pathway could erode from under you and wash you away in an instant. It may look safe, it is not safe. Stay away from the riverbanks, stay away from the riverbanks, stay away from the riverbanks. And here we go one more time. Yeah, the river's closed. You cannot boat on the river. And again, if you take a watercraft onto the river, you know you're taking your life into your own hands, but you're also being very selfish. If you are seen, we have to send someone to pluck you off the river. Anyone we send to pluck you off the river is being taken away from important search work in flooded communities. So not only are you reckless, you are selfish. Stay off the river. We've made it to this point, folks, with no serious injuries and no loss of life due to this flooding. And I intend on keeping it that way, but I need your cooperation in order to do that. Now, I've been saying for many, many days that we have only one priority, which is ensuring people's safety. That is true, but I will tell you our secondary priority is to get people back into their homes and let people back into their beds. As you know, we began opening communities yesterday afternoon and evening, and now I have an announcement. To facilitate the process of getting people back to their homes, we're changing our process to speed things up. I'm announcing now that 65,000 people may now return to their homes. We are lifting the mandatory evacuation notice for most communities. Now, you'll see on the map behind me, we still have some red zones. If you live in the following communities, you must check the map before you are ready to go home. And if you are in the red zones, you cannot return home. Those communities are, we'll see how good Rob is at playing Vanna here, if he can point them all out. You don't have to point them all out, Rob. Roxborough, Inglewood, Bowness, Bridgeland, Chinatown, well, he is doing well, East Village, Elbow Park. See, this is the part I would have been confused on, Rob. Rideau. Which one is Rideau and which one is Roxborough? Ah, they're not labeled on the map. Earlton, Mission, Stanley Park, Alboya, Sunnyside, and big portions of the downtown. So if you live in an evacuated zone, you may now return home. If you live in those neighborhoods I mentioned, check the map, because there are certain parts of those neighborhoods that are still unsafe. The reason for this change is because we are no longer going door to door to do the assessments. We are allowing people to do self-assessments of their home. So if you live in an evacuated zone that is not labeled in red, and that's about 65,000 people, you may return home, but you must follow the following instructions very, very carefully. This information is available at calgary.ca, but I'm going to go through it in great detail with you right now. So, first, we will have re-entry information centers in every neighborhood. Those will be located for the most part in your community association building. We'll confirm that location information on calgary.ca. Before you go to your house, go to the re-entry center in your neighborhood. Before you go to your house, go to the re-entry center in your neighborhood. You'll get information there. City staff will be there to help you and provide a checklist for self-assessment. There's also a brochure of useful advice, which is going to be distributed. It is currently available at calgary.ca. What to do after a flood. Now, I should tell you that the information I'm going to give you now applies to people who live in houses. If you live in a condo or an apartment building, work through your building manager to determine exactly what to do. So here are the important things. Number one, safety comes first. Only enter your home if the following are true. The road and sidewalk must be dry. No water, no puddling. The road and sidewalk must be dry. When you open the door, there must be no flood water. If the road and sidewalk are not dry, or if there's flood water when you open the door, leave immediately. Go back to the re-entry center and tell them about the situation. If you're in your house, the first thing to do is inspect the basement for water. If there is water above any electrical outlets, leave immediately. If there's water above electrical outlets, leave immediately in your basement. Now, road and sidewalks are dry, no flood water upon entry, no water above the electrical outlets in your basement. If all of those are true, then you can proceed with the self-assessment. You'll be able to go through your house and check out what's happening. If there are issues, take an 8.5 by 10 piece of paper, a standard piece of paper, write as boldly as you can on it, gas needed, electricity needed, or water pumping needed.
Your Worship, that's one sheet of paper per item.
Yes, thank you, one sheet of paper per item, okay? Electricity needed, gas needed, water pumping needed. Affix that to your front window, and people will come and help you as we continue our street-by-street assessments. Take the sheet of paper, sheets of paper, and tape them in your window. One of those other things that I'm surprised I'm saying. Electricity and water do not mix. Be very, very, very careful. Another thing I can't believe I have to say. If you have a generator or a gasoline pump, don't run it indoors. This is a bad idea. Make sure that you are running generators and gasoline pumps well away from any air intake into your home. Do not exhaust anywhere near your home. And, to give us a little hand, take a picture of the roads in your neighborhood using your smartphone and upload those using the 311 mobile app. We will use some crowdsourcing in order to get even more information out to the emergency workers. Okay, so that's the checklist for those returning home. I know people are excited to get home. I know people really need to see the conditions of their houses, but remember safety first. I'm thrilled that we can get people back home again, but if any of those issues are in place, please have patience and wait just a little while longer. Now, because we are waiting, we are letting people do self-assessments, it is the case that not all services will be available by the time you get home. It may be hours. many hours before those are available. But as long as you're safe, you can start the work of restoration and cleanup. And I really do hope and pray that most of you come home to dry basements and safe homes. Let's talk about downtown. Our next biggest priority is what to do with downtown. We completed our full assessment last night, and tonight we are taking actions based on that, and we'll be communicating about downtown throughout the day. The content of my next briefing will be almost entirely about what we're doing downtown and how to restore downtown to more normalcy. But I do have a number of things to suggest today. First of all, as we've been talking about for the last couple of days, there are portions of downtown that are now clear and open. You can see that little square north of the tracks, south of 6th Avenue, a little rectangle that is now clear and open. We hope that we will be able to restore power and open up other swaths of downtown over the course of the next day or so. Again, it will not be normal. Work is normal on Monday morning. If you are an employer downtown, I suggest to you that you continue to operate on essential staff only. But we do hope that later today we'll be able to give you some information about when you can go and conduct damage assessments of your buildings. It will certainly be at least the middle of the week before we can be recommending that people are going back to work downtown at a minimum. And as you've heard over the last few days, there are pockets of downtown where normalcy will not return for weeks. And those are isolated, but there are some of them, and we will have to work that out. And we are, of course, assessing the condition of all key critical infrastructure and preparing our short and long-term plans for remediation. A word to out-of-town travelers. Most major downtown hotels are currently closed. Those closed hotels at the moment include the Fairmont Palliser Hotel, Le Germain, the Westin, the Calgary Marriott, the Delta Bow Valley, the International Hotel and Suites, the Sheraton Suites Calgary Eau Claire, and Hotel Arts. If you cannot delay your trip and you are coming into the city, please work with your hotel's head office to make arrangements. I will have Gianna Manus, the CEO of NMAX, up here in just a moment to tell you a little bit more about the brilliant and amazing work our colleagues at NMAX have been doing to get power back to people. But I do want to give you just a couple of one quick update. You will have noticed that in the community of Douglasdale, NMAX Substation 32, just south of the Deerfoot Bridge, when I went over it the other night, I really had no idea the substation was actually in the middle of the river. I wasn't convinced that's where it was supposed to be, but we are working hard on that particular substation. It has been isolated by the floodwaters, and with great assistance from brave members of the Canadian Forces, we are informed that that situation has been stabilized. Gianna will tell you more, but there are still 24,000 NMAX customers without power. However, that is significantly down, and the hardworking people of NMAX have been going around the clock getting people their power back. I want to speak just for a moment about Inglewood. In Inglewood, the pressure of the stream flow has resulted in significant bank erosion at a very isolated spot near 8th Avenue and 22nd Street Southeast. Again, thanks to the hard work of my colleagues in city engineering, as well as members of the Canadian Forces, we've started to stabilize that situation, but I must tell you, part of the road is gone. We are monitoring the situation, and we will haul material and drop fill into the river to stabilize the banks. So you'll notice there is parts of Inglewood which are still considerably in the red zone, and that is why. So we need to continue to work on that. Always, we are gathering more information, and we will continue to communicate. Calgarians should, in addition to following these briefings, go to calgary.ca, follow the City of Calgary on Facebook, or at City of Calgary on Twitter for the most up-to-date information. Or, of course, follow me at Nenshi, and I try to get all of that out as well, though I have been occasionally sleeping. I know people are dying to know about that. So, again, repeating the school messaging, Calgary Public and Calgary Catholic schools will all be closed tomorrow. Grade 9 provincial achievement tests are cancelled. For the grade 12 students looking to write their Chemistry 30 diploma exam tomorrow, you are fully exempted from all remaining diploma exams. You will, I think I've just become the most popular mayor among 17-year-olds ever. You are exempted from them. That means that your teacher awarded mark or your classroom awarded mark will be your final grade in your grade 12 courses, unless you need to write the exam. might be a nice distraction from what's going on. If you do need to write the exam, your schools have all set up writing centers, usually at your school, in some cases not. Your school should have communicated with you with that already, but check with the school. But you do have to write the exams at the regular time. So the writing centers may be in a different location, but they will be the regular time. The information that I've just given does not apply to private and charter schools, each of whom are making their own decisions. If you are a student in a private or charter school, then please just check with your school as to what they are doing. And I know some have followed the lead of the CBE and the Catholic Board, and some are hosting the exams. So check with your school. Final reminder on drinking water. Thank you to all Calgarians for really heeding our advice to restrict your use of drinking water. We need to give the guys in the plants an opportunity to catch up. Your drinking water remains excellent. It remains safe and clean. You can drink it. You don't need to stock up on bottled water, but we are asking people to restrict their use. So once again, short showers, don't do the laundry, run your dishwasher only when necessary. For heaven's sakes, don't wash your car. And those restrictions will remain in effect for some time as we work through to clear the sediment and the silt of the water. I'd like to finish these things with today's good news. The good news today is, we have had calls for support from around the country and around the world, and every one of them fills our heart with gratitude. But we have no better friends, of course, than our best friends in Edmonton, who were on the scene right away with police officers. And I just want to tell you that 100 firefighters and equipment from Edmonton are coming down today to help us as well. And we're deeply grateful to Mayor Mandel and to all the good people of Edmonton for giving us a hand. Folks, we've turned a corner. We're still in a state of emergency, but I will tell you that our hearts and thoughts and prayers are with our colleagues downstream. In particular, all of us today, as we're doing our own work, I hope we can all spare a thought for the people of Medicine Hat and what is going to happen there. We have offered assistance as much as we can to the people of Medicine Hat. For example, we were handling their 911 calls as they were transitioning that facility, and we will continue to help in whatever way we can. But please, folks, know that the thoughts and prayers of all Calgarians are with you. I'd just like to call up Gianna Manus, the amazing CEO of NMAX, to give you a little bit more of an update on NMAX's work and on Power in the City. Gianna?
Thank you, Mayor Nenshi. And I'd like to first start by thanking everyone in Calgary for your patience and your support throughout this. We are certainly working as quickly as we can to restore electricity around the city, but safety, as the Mayor said, safety is our utmost concern, particularly as residents and people start getting back into their homes. So we ask for your continued patience. We are going to continue to work as quickly as we can, but there is a process for this recovery, and we will continue to work, but again, your patience is most appreciated, and ask for it to continue to go there. I'd like to give you a brief update on a number of items. First of all, start with residential. As the Mayor mentioned, we made good progress in restoring electricity throughout the last 24 hours. Safety continues to be a priority for us, so we're asking as you re-enter your home, as the Mayor said, please assess the situation, but keep safety utmost and foremost in your mind. We will ask that you continue, as the Mayor outlined here, there were a number of steps that SEMA has put together for you to follow. We ask that you follow those steps, but I'd like to reemphasize that when you go into your home, if there is water above the electricity outlets in your basement, leave your home immediately. We will then continue to work with you, as SEMA will do, follow all of the SEMA instructions so that we can all get through this together. Currently, we have approximately 24 customers without electricity. About 10,000 of those are located in and around the downtown core. Let me continue to talk about downtown. There was discussion about this yesterday, so I will give you an update. Our number 5 substation, which is one of 3 substations that support the downtown area, did take on water as part of this flooding. We are continuing the assessment of that substation and the equipment there so that we can have a better understanding of any damage that we had and when we will be able to re-energize that substation. We are doing that assessment today. We're guardedly optimistic, and we expect we will have a further update on the situation of that substation later this afternoon. However, that's just the first step in the process for downtown re-energization. So the first step is to look at that substation in particular, and then look at the infrastructure from the substation to the buildings, and there will need to be a further assessment of the electrical infrastructure in the buildings as well. I would like to emphasize, however, that we're talking about the downtown area in particular, but the overall electrical infrastructure and the electrical system of Calgary is strong. So these areas that we're talking about are related to those areas impacted by the flooding. But the overall Calgary electrical system is strong and operational. We also talk about some of our other electrical infrastructure. As the mayor mentioned, we have been dealing with flooding in and around our 32 substation. Mayor Nenshi, it is adjacent to the Bow with the flooding. It is now, as you mentioned, part of the Bow River. We have had great cooperation from so many directions, but the military has been working with us to stabilize that substation. We've just got a report that they're continuing to work with us as we stabilize that substation, which supports the South Health Campus in the south part of Calgary. We have done some additional efforts to ensure that we can have reliability in that part of the town as well. So I would like to thank the military for all the efforts that they're doing and continuing to do with us as we look to secure our 32 substation. I mentioned the cooperation we've had from the military, but it extends far beyond them as well. We have received offers to assist from all across Canada, from the utilities, our contractors. As we move into the recovery stage, which we are now doing, we will be looking to bring in this assistance, which is appropriate as we work through and recover all of the various pieces of infrastructure. I can report that EPCOR from Edmonton is on their way to be supporting INMAX in these efforts. And as we continue this process, we will look to bring in assistance from other utilities and other companies as necessary. The cooperation with SEMA, INMAX, I'd like to extend a particular thanks to our crews and our contractors. The efforts that people are doing around this situation have been heroic, and they are working 24 hours a day, getting rest, but I'll mention the safety is utmost in our mind, and I'd like to thank all the crews and all the people that are working on this on our behalf. The work, again, it's just been tremendous work that we're seeing out there, and we know that this will continue through the duration until everything is back to normal. I'd also like to thank the citizens of Calgary, your support, your patience. We've mentioned before, but the tweets and the outreach that you've given to us and the support that you're showing for our crews has just really helped us keep going in some very difficult times. So thank you for all that. I'd like to close again with a reminder of safety. Again, as you continue to re-enter your homes, I'd like to emphasize again, as the mayor said, electricity and water do not mix. So if you come into your homes and you see water above the electrical outlets, again, we ask that you leave your home immediately and then follow further instructions from SEMA. As you re-enter your home as well, again, keep safety in mind, follow the instructions from SEMA, and we will be out there to get electricity back to your homes and businesses as quickly as we can safely do so. Thank you.
Thanks, Gianna. Thank you. And I notice as well that we're joined today by Alderman Brian Pincott, who also has been out there. Alderman Pincott, looks like most of your folks can go home now, which is outstanding and great news. So that one last thing, and then we'll go to questions. Again, there's been a huge outpouring of support from Calgarians who want to help, and I've been saying the best thing you can do is rest up and get ready. I will have an announcement later today on how Calgarians can sign up to volunteer and assist with the cleanup and some knowledge on that. So I'm very excited to be able to tap into the great spirit of Calgarians as we move forward. Questions?
Yes. Mayor Nenshi, how many people were in evacuation centers, and how many neighborhoods, or which neighborhoods are still out under mandatory evacuation order?
So no full, I'll answer the first question first, which is, as of last night, the most recent numbers I have, and I'm just looking to see if I have any more recent, we had about 950 people in the evacuation centers. There is no neighborhood now that is under full mandatory evacuation. The red zones that you see on the screen behind me are portions of neighborhoods where people can't go. If you live, for example, can you just point out Elbow Park for me there, Rob? So if you live, right at the bottom. So if you live, for example, in Elbow Park, only that red triangle you cannot go home. Anywhere else in the community, you can go home now.
So Mayor Nenshi, all those communities you just listed off, those people can go home to parts of them?
So everybody can go home, but if you live in those communities, Roxborough, Inglewood, Bowness, Bridgeland, Chinatown, East Village, Elbow Park, Rideau, Earlton, Mission, Stanley Park, Sunnyside, and downtown, check the map first. Because if you live in one of the parts of the neighborhood that's still in red, so Elbow Park, there's just a teensy bit. Bowness, there's 2 big chunks. Inglewood, there's a very large chunk. If you live in the red zone, you still can't go. But if you live in the neighborhood outside of the red zone, you can go. And if I didn't mention your neighborhood on that list, and you've been evacuated, it means everybody can go.
Thank you.
Like Discovery Ridge, for example, is now clear for everyone. Hillhurst, West Hillhurst, Montgomery, clear for everyone.
How many Calgarians are without power in your estimation at this point?
24,000.
There was an evacuation underway yesterday in East Village of senior citizens and people with severe medical conditions. What's the strategy in terms of getting those people the meds they need and dealing with the vulnerable population?
So, in terms of, there are 2 seniors' homes in the East Village, and Chief Burrell, there you are, can update you on anything new, but our strategy as of last night with those folks was,
We removed them overnight, Your Worship.
okay, we removed them overnight. I was going to say our strategy last night was to have them shelter in place, so have they all been well? Bruce, you come.
So that issue did come up yesterday, I think at the last press briefing we had last night about what we were going to do about those residents. At that time, we indicated we were going to continue to shelter in place until we had a better idea from NMAX as to whether or not power could be restored. Given the amount of work that had to be done in pumping out and doing the assessment, decision was made in the early hours of this morning, and in conjunction with Alberta Health Services, those individuals were removed from those buildings.
They're in one of our reception centers.
Okay, did you catch that?
Yeah.
And so they've been removed to our reception centers. At the reception centers, as you know, the vast majority of people who have been evacuated have been sheltering with family and friends. And those who really need assistance have been in the reception centers. And they're well equipped to handle people with complex medical or other fragility needs, and that's what they're working on.
So these people who are heading home today and they're clear to go in, no problems with water, they're putting these signs up in the window. What happens next? Like, our city crew is going to be coming around to assist them? How long are they waiting?
Yeah,
What's
so
that process?
up until yesterday, what we've been doing is we've been conducting those street-by-street, building-by-building assessments prior to letting people go home. What we've decided to do is let people go home, but we're still continuing doing the street-by-street, building-by-building assessments. Now, don't get me wrong. If you put a sign in your door, it doesn't mean someone will magically appear on the curb. It could be hours, it might be a day or 2. And if you're uncomfortable because you don't have power or whatever, you certainly still have the option of staying out. But we wanted to give people a chance to go home and assess the damage and see what the story is. So this is their opportunity to do just that.
So a list of the neighborhoods in the red zone can be found where?
Calgary.ca. The best thing to do is look, and those maps should be live on Calgary.ca now. And the best thing to do, as I said, is just as before you go home, check out the map and make sure that in your house is not in the red zone.
Okay.
Any update on plans for coordinating volunteer efforts?
Yeah, we'll have more information on that later today. We're just filling out the back end of how we're going to gather that information, because we will have thousands and thousands of people, and I should have some information on that in the next briefing.
Your Worship, we have a volunteer coordinator in place.
Yes, we do have a volunteer coordinator in place, and I'm going to sit down with that person as soon as we're done.
Are you still recommending for monetary donations on Red Cross today?
Yeah, at this point, with thank you for reminding me of this, with very few exceptions, we're not in a position to accept in-kind donations, food and clothing and so on. If you'd like to make a monetary donation, you can certainly do so through the Canadian Red Cross. I know they've raised a lot of money already. I also know that in the upcoming days and weeks, a lot of agencies that are working on the ground will be seeking monetary donations. So even if you want to hold off until there's a better situation, that's fine as well. I should also mention that if you have specialized equipment or skills, for example, if you're a construction company that has access to pumps or heavy equipment, please email CEMA Logistics. That's CEMA.logistics@calgary.ca. And we will match whatever you got with our needs. Now, just because of the volume, and we may not get back to you right away, There's a very high-tech system downstairs where we will print out your email and put it on the wall. And if someone needs a pump, they look at the wall and take it off the wall. And so we will be able to match you, and maybe a few hours or days before we get to you, but we love it, we appreciate it, and we can certainly use your help. So thank you for that. I just have latest news is just as we're doing the energizing, although I've announced those reopenings, and I know people will plan those reopenings, do give us a couple hours. So you may start your return to your homes if you are not in the red zone at 1 o'clock. So you may start your return at home if you're not in the red zone at 1 o'clock today, 2 hours from now. All right? Anyone else? All right, thank you all. Thank you for all your diligence in continuing to tell the stories and get all this important information out to Calgarians. I don't have a time for the next briefing, but we will be talking to you sometime this afternoon. Thank you all.